Homestuck, a webcomic made by Andrew Hussey. You probably don't know what it entails specifically, but I've heard several people on the internet say or imply that it sucks, and therefore dismissed it out of hand. This is an entirely reasonable response. Forming opinions is hard, and in spite of what some supposed intellectuals will tell you, on such affairs, the majority is always right. In fact, Homestuck is often filled with insipid bullshit, its fans being subhuman morons whose lives are preserved solely by virtue of the fact that we live in a stagnating, decadent modern society. I should know. I'm one of them. Nevertheless, there is one genuine reason to spend your time investigating this glorified pile of garbage. One character whom all of us can find meaning in, one way or another. That character is Eridan Ampera. Eridan is a graphite-skinned alien from another world, where the blood itself has turned gay as hell. Essentially, the shorter your wavelength, the less that you suck. And Eridan is close to the very top in this regard. He can breathe underwater, lives hundreds of times longer than those at the opposite end of the spectrum, and possesses a laser rifle that he regularly uses to orphan members of his own species by killing their animal parent figures. If that's not awesome, I don't know what is. There is something in this character for everyone, no matter your worldview. Conservatives will appreciate his noble lineage and general affinity for firearms. Liberals can enjoy his funky hair color and constant victim complex. And cuckolds of both alignment can latch on to the struggles that Eridan goes through during his adventure. For Eridan, while only 13 years old, is already a man of reason. He understands that the premier purpose of life is reproduction, done in the world of Homestuck through buckets of alien ejaculate, and devotes himself to it wholeheartedly. In keeping with this rightful urge, he attempts to foster the beginnings of a loving relationship with the one being who is around his biological level. Unfortunately, as her choice in eyewear may suggest, said being is a brain-damaged disgrace to her caste, who views her subjects as people, rather than the biological inferiors that they are. She not only has no feelings for Eridan, but exploits his combat abilities to feed her own animal parent figure, and consequently prevent his ambitions from taking shape, betraying him twofold. But facing that conniving treachery is only the start of this young man's epic struggle. Eridan is a man of science. In this age, where it seems as though the most basic tenets of reality have been called into question, here's someone that cuts through all of that and says, "Enough of your magical bullshit. Science is absolute." And this is an even bigger deal in Homestuck, for opposite to he is a tool named Rose, who professes to practice black magic, and learns hack psychology too. Of course, the author has an obvious bias towards her, and in their reality, magic is real. But all reasonable folk know, Eridan is in the right. Science is king, and all who disagree are committing the crime of holding life back in ignorance and debasement. But it goes beyond him simply pointing her shitty shit out. Eridan develops and weaponizes his science over the course of the story, culminating in a poignant display that science, when used with vision and courage, can accomplish things like a magic in its own right. Turn on a light bulb. Fucking magical. And at the same time, not. The laws, the wiring, every bit of engineering remains firm and present. But such things do not preclude the wonderment and imagination fully present in man's fantasy. In fact, one could call it the greatest magic of all, one that actually works. And Eridan displays that truth with the force needed to wipe away the miasmic falsehoods of his world. Truly a champion of the modern age. What's more, in a world where people type like this, Eridan makes the wise decision to commit mass genocide. He has a revolutionary way of dealing with rejection, and no matter the obstacle or cruel coalition of fate, he strides forward with all the grim determination of truth. At the same time, he is young, barely out of infancy, and has flaws to overcome, giving his character depth. Even when they're the result of simple incompatibility, he takes his rejection so deeply that, to him, they're a negation of his very self. And he judges himself similarly in interactions for his lack of charisma at 13 years old. He has issues, enough that the masses of dumbasses can relate to him. Oh, and sometimes his keyboard gets stuck on the letters W and V too. Yet what epic hero doesn't have a streak of repulsiveness to overcome? Be it apathy, greed, or innocence, there is generally a sin to speak of for these figures, and Eridan combines these flaws with his own incredible strength to compose a hero that one can truly root for. Speaking of heroes, Eridan is among the best in that department too. The core premise of the series is that the main characters are forced to play the equivalent of pretentious sword art online, under threat of dying horribly with the rest of their species. You can die in it, do a bunch of convoluted nonsense involving alchemy, level up, and in theory metamorphosize into a god, but in return you're subjected to an inferno of preachy, stupid bullshit delivered in riddles. Here's where it gets interesting though. Each player's potential powers and ultimate makeup is determined by two factors, aspect and class, which determines how one interacts with it. There are 12 aspects to speak of. Most of them suck. Life? Yeah, I'm already alive, thanks. Void? Literally nothing. I'll pass. Heart? Are you fucking kidding me? But then you have hope. Hope is the force said to defeat the true villain of this story. It's said to be capable of bringing a better world into being. It is the power of white light and belief, pursuing literally infinite possibility with zeal. In other words, it's the best aspect. It's also Eridan's aspect. Eridan, the man of science, itself responsible for the incredible ascent of human prosperity. It is the force behind his weaponized science. It is the force that can shatter the heavens. It is the proof of his power. And this ties into his class as well. What does one do with the power they've been given? Do they just let life happen like a dipshit? Do they spew meaningless nonsense about how their aspect reflects the inner monologues of existence itself, somehow? Or do they just man up and fucking use it to erase the enemy? Eridan is a prince, and the role of a prince is to destroy. 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 The prince destroys their aspect, or destroys through their aspect. They are the ones most qualified to wipe away the obscenities of the world, and thereby leave room for a more perfect life to emerge. Such is his role, acknowledged and defined by the universe itself. And he's friends with Shrek. And he has the best music in the series. Just listen. It's really something you can kill hordes of the peasantry to. In conclusion, it's almost worth looking into Homestuck just for Eridan Ampera. He's great, and what's more, he embodies a kind of uncertainty that one is always at risk of, for Eridan is not alone in this world. There is also a wandering ICP fan, and a young woman of similar moral fiber whose hobbies include extreme role-playing and fantasizing over Nicolas Cage. And other assholes. As anyone who has examined history will know, being right does not guarantee success. Will Eridan be able to prevail amidst these mounting obstacles and make his ambitions of science and shithead destruction a reality? One can only hope.